Many years ago, when my husband Dave and I were in Geneva, Switzerland, we found our way to the liberal synagogue for Friday night Shabbat services. And following services, the Rabbi, Francois Garay, invited us to his home for Shabbat dinner. An eclectic group was present, spanning different nationalities, different language abilities, and different ages. When it was time to bless his children, Rabbi Garay did not use the traditional formula for blessing his son, yet he did for his daughter. As we heard from Cantor Kotler earlier, in our Torah portion this week of Vayechi, which wraps up the Joseph story in the book of Genesis, we find Jacob at the end of his life offering blessings to his children. And when Joseph goes up to greet his father, he brings his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and these are Jacob's only children born outside of the land of Canaan. Jacob asks that Joseph bring the boys close so that Jacob can bless them as his own. And the patriarch says, "I never expected to see you," referring to Joseph again. "And here God has let me see your children as well." Then Jacob, here referred to as Israel, stretches out his hands and he then crosses them so that his right hand is on the head of Ephraim, though he's the younger, and his left hand is on Manasseh's head, though he is firstborn. Joseph tries to correct his father, indicating that Manasseh's the older and therefore deserving of the right hand. And Jacob responds, "I know, my son, I know. He too shall become a people, and he too shall be great. Yet his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall be plentiful enough for nations." We've seen this before, multiple times in the book of Genesis, where the younger child is viewed more favorably than the older. But Jacob blesses his grandsons that day, saying, "By you shall Israel invoke blessings, saying, Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. God make you like Ephraim and Menashe." And today, this is the same formula which many people, though not Rabbi Garay, use when blessing their sons during what is known as Birkat Habanim, the blessing of the children, which we traditionally recite at home at the Shabbat dinner table along with the candles and Kiddush. So why didn't Rabbi Garay use this traditional formula? Well, he questioned, who are Manasseh and Ephraim? We don't really know much about them, or their deeds for that matter. When we bless our daughters, we say, "Yisimech Elohim Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah." May God make you like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, our matriarchs. We know who they are. And so what Rabbi Garay did is he used the similar formula using the patriarchs to bless his sons, saying, "Yisimcha Elohim ka'Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov." May God make you like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, Rabbi Garay was not the first one to ask, who are these two lads? And what's so great about them that we are sending God's blessing upon our sons to be like Manasseh and Ephraim? What we do know about these two boys from the Torah is that before the years of famine, Osnat, Joseph's wife, gave birth to them, and Joseph named the firstborn Menashe, meaning God has made me forget. Nashani, Menashe, you can hear the similarity in the play on words. God has made me forget completely my hardship and my parental home. And he named the second Ephraim, meaning God has made me fertile. Hifrani Ephraim, again you hear the similar sounds. God has made me fertile in the land of my affliction. But we don't know more about what they were like or what they did. Commentaries have filled this gap, offering scenarios that raise these two sons in a positive light in order to support this idea of blessing our sons to be like Ephraim and Manasseh. Rabbi Harold Kushner, among others, teaches that while Manasseh and Ephraim were born and raised in Egypt, in a secular society, they remained faithful to the morals and ideals that were taught to them through their father Joseph and embraced by their grandfather Jacob. They showed strength of character and kept true to their identity amid a society in which others may have pressured them to live like Egyptians. And we can see how this is relevant to our children today. May we be like Ephraim and Manasseh, free to live Jewish lives in the midst of our non-Jewish society. Yael Eckstein, president and CEO of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, in one of her commentaries on this Torah portion, offers another perspective. She teaches, at the moment that Jacob crossed his hands, placing his right on the younger Ephraim and the left on the older Manasseh, amazingly, Manasseh didn't protest. We know that Joseph did. But Manasseh didn't protest. He was not jealous or resentful of his brother. Ephraim and Manasseh were the first brothers in the covenantal family who loved each other unconditionally and did not fight. Think of Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, Leah and Rachel, Joseph and his older brothers, even back to Cain and Abel. Manasseh and Ephraim got along. And so this is why we bless our sons to be like Ephraim and Manasseh, because as important as it is to be righteous and holy like the patriarchs, it is critical to live in harmony with our brothers and sisters and siblings. And then she quotes the Psalms in English, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." We know this psalm when we sang it earlier in Hebrew. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachdav. And isn't that something we want for our children? That they should be blessed to get along harmoniously with their familial and metaphorical siblings. This year, I noticed that in Jewish tradition, offering a blessing to either sons or daughters is a very binary way of thinking, male or female. What about those who don't identify as one or the other? On the High Holy Days, Rabbi London spoke of language, exclusion and inclusion, and the introduction here at Beth Emet of using the expression Kabbalat mitzvah in place of bar, bat, or b'nai mitzvah as a way of being inclusive of all genders. Keshet, for LGBTQ equality in Jewish life, posts a resource on their website about Birkat Habanim, written by David Levy. He questions, does this blessing need to be gendered at all? If the blessing of being like Ephraim and Manasseh, as Rabbi Kushner supports, is a blessing of being proud and faithful to ourselves and not falling prey to what society decides is normative, as Yael Eckstein reinforces, while living in peace and harmony with others, why not extend this blessing to all genders instead of just to boys? And then David Levy also validates that it might feel odd to remove the names of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah from blessing girls. Looking at these ancestors, Levy suggests, from Jacob's youthful refusal to accept the position in society dictated for him, to his deathbed assertion that even those with the most potential for alienation and marginalization were central to his family, Jacob never let something like convention get in the way of righting imbalances in tradition. Why should we? So on Shabbat evening, if you have someone to bless, why not be like Jacob and fiddle with tradition a bit? And may we all be like Ephraim and Manasseh. May we all be like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And may we all be like Jacob, unafraid to adjust tradition for the good of our families and our people. This is a beautiful ritual for parents and grandparents to offer their children and grandchildren, and a great message for those who have someone to bless. But what if a person doesn't have children or grandchildren? What if there's no other person present to bless? Let us, regardless of our familial status, see ourselves this time not as the one offering the blessing, but rather as the one receiving the blessing and the multiple messages therein. A message to carry on the traditions of our ancestors. A message to be true to our identities. A message to live in harmony with others. And so may we imagine the voice of our patriarch Jacob or the voices of our own parents, even if we didn't grow up with this ritual, bestowing this blessing upon each of us. It doesn't matter how old we are, we always continue to grow. Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. Yisimcha Elohim ke'Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yakov. V'yisimech Elohim ke'Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah. May God make us like Ephraim and Manasseh. May God make us like our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And may God make us like our matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Amen.